Base 10 and Base 12 math describes the underlying source code of how this matrix operates. Base 10 is finite. As energy dissipates, it gets siphoned out in the desired direction by negative parasitic beings, whereas Base 12 is eternal and self-regenerating, a closed loop in which zero energy is lost. Base 10, finite life, Fibonacci life code, and Base 12, eternal life code, is an intriguing intersection of mathematics, numerology, and physiology, where numbers are used to represent life cycles, spiritual paths, and the flow of existence, and how matter takes on form. These ideas combine systems like the Fibonacci sequence, number bases, and spiritual interpretations of time and life, creating a framework that attempts to give mathematical expression to the finite and eternal aspects of existence. Base 10, or the decimal system, is the most common number system used in daily life. It is based on powers of 10, which has its roots in human biology, specifically the 10 fingers on our hands and 10 toes on our feet. In the context of finite life, Base 10 represents the linear, finite nature of existence, where life begins, progresses, and inevitably concludes. The Fibonacci sequence is a mathematical series where each number is the sum of the two preceding ones. It is often seen as a model for natural growth and progression. In this framework, the Fibonacci sequence could represent the stages of a person's life, where each step or phase builds upon the previous one in an expanding yet finite pattern. Life follows a predictable progression with an endpoint that marks the completion of the cycle. It is a representation of growth and decline, leading to a final closure and finite existence. Fibonacci life code follows a base 10 math pattern and can be seen as a model for how life grows and unfolds, mirroring the beauty of nature and human development. Just as Fibonacci numbers appear in everything, from the branching of trees to the arrangement of petals and flowers, the sequence can symbolize the way life itself builds upon moments and experiences in an intricate, almost organic pattern. This code would align with the idea of growth, of a life lived in harmony with natural rhythms, progressing toward the momentum that each previous phase provides. But eventually, the energy is lost and dissipates out from biological beings. In contrast, Base 12 math is a system often regarded as more harmonious or complete. This number system has spiritual significance in many cultures, often associated with completeness, cycles, and eternal renewing patterns. The eternal life code represents an existence that transcends the finite, operating on a different scale entirely, where life continues in an infinite, nonlinear progression. Base 12 math symbolizes a cyclical, eternal nature of time, where life is part of a continual process without end. It reflects the idea of the eternal soul, reincarnation, or an ongoing cosmic journey, with no definitive conclusion, only continuous renewal and transformation. These contrasting source codes diverge into two separate timelines. One leads to ascension, and a return to source consciousness. The other to depletion of energy, eventual death, and a reincarnation loop. The base 10 code is a finite cycle, bound by time, physical limitations, and mortality. The base 12 and the eternal life code is aligned with spiritual continuity, infinite growth, and existence beyond physical death. The relationship between finite and eternal, between the limitation and loss of energy of base 10 and the spiritually expansive possibilities of base 12, can be seen as a potential evolutionary path, where humanity is free from aging and the deterioration of the physical body as linear time progresses. Presently, we live within a finite existence, but our consciousness, our spiritual nature, can change timelines to align with the base 12 code that exists beyond the boundaries of time and space. In this way, base 10 and base 12 offer more than just numerical systems. They provide the source code for our understanding of life, growth, and the search for meaning within the finite and eternal aspects of existence. In some esoteric and mystical interpretations, the original Kabbalistic tree of life contained 12 sephirot and operated on a harmonic base 12 structure, a mathematical system associated with cycles, wholeness, and perpetual energy circulation. Base 12 appears repeatedly in nature and cosmology. 12 zodiacal archetypes, 12 cranial nerves, 12 tones in music. The tree of life was not merely a diagram, but a living map of consciousness, designed to guide humanity towards balance, regeneration, and what was understood at that time as eternal life. Eternal life did not mean physical immortality alone, but sustained coherence between spirit, mind, and matter, living a life in alignment with universal rhythm rather than entropy and loss. Before the alteration to the tree of life into a base 10 sequence, followed by the corruption of our DNA, human bodies stopped aging after adulthood. They were immune to disease and decay, and people could heal and regenerate their bodies entirely after injury, including entire limbs and organs. As I mentioned before in one of my videos, healthcare is one of the most profitable industries for the parasites that invaded Earth. They cannot generate their own life force or create and manipulate matter on their own. So they created a monetary system in which beings with the divine spark voluntarily exchange their time, labor, and effort for. If human DNA was uncorrupted and in its original state, they would lose a big portion of their income and control over this realm. The original tree of life emphasized circular regenerative flow rather than linear progression and dissipation of life force. Energy moved up and down the sephirotic pathways in self-renewing loops, mirroring natural cycles of death and rebirth without decay. Base 12 mathematics supported by this model by allowing seamless division and resonance, reinforcing harmony rather than fragmentation and energy loss. Consciousness was understood as something that could perpetually renew itself through alignment with these cosmic laws, keeping humanity connected to Source rather than trapped in degradation. The corruption to this realm occurred when the base code of this reality construct was altered by deliberate manipulation into a base 10 framework. Base 10, while useful for commerce and material accounting, emphasizes linear accumulation, hierarchy, and finite endpoints. In this altered tree of life, the flow of energy became distorted, turning cyclical regeneration into a one-way descent toward entropy and eventual death of the physical body. Instead of eternal renewing systems, they encoded limitation, aging, and decay. Spirit became increasingly divided and separated from matter, and consciousness was funneled into survival, fear, and mortality. The shift from base 12 to base 10 math represents more than a mathematical change. It symbolizes a fall in consciousness itself. The tree of life became a tool of control rather than liberation, reinforcing the idea that death is inevitable and transference must be deferred to an authority or externally granted. Where the original system pointed toward embodied immortality through harmony and alignment, the corrupted version of the tree normalized disconnection, fragmentation, and spiritual amnesia. Reclaiming the original tree, then, is not about rewriting diagrams, but about restoring the underlying source code of reality. Magic functions like a cheat code, allowing individuals to influence the simulation in ways that seem beyond normal physical laws. Through focused intention, ritual, and symbolic actions, magic can bypass ordinary constraints, enable personal transformation and manifestation. By understanding and working with the source code of reality, practitioners of magic can alter their experiences and outcomes within the simulation. I left some educational links under the description of this video if anyone wants to learn more about base 10 and base 12 math, or the Christ spiral.